What was once a tremor has become a groundswell. Workers demanding a minimum wage of $15 per hour, forcing every presidential candidate to explain why they will or won't go for the idea. So let's see who really cashed the check in Tuesday night's debate on this and other issues of monetary import, if you will. He is the veteran economist, syndicated columnist who can be read at Newsmax.com, also professor of business at the University of Maryland, Peter Morici. She is the veteran media reporter, both video and print, senior contributor at the Federalist, D.C. McAllister. I want to thank you both for joining us. Peter, let's get started with you. Ben Carson made the statement that every time we raise the minimum wage, the number of jobless people increases. Peter, let's be honest here, not true. So who got it right on minimum wage last night?
Ben Carson was right. When you raise the price of apples, people buy fewer apples. When you raise the price of labor, people find ways not to use it.
But let me just go ahead, if you will.
If
you will, I want to make sure then, because in between 1978 and 2009, raising the federal minimum wage did not always result in a job loss or job growth. Raising the wage could cost some jobs, but the CBO even says that low-wage workers' earnings would increase as a result of raising the minimum wage. So then how do we go ahead and put this all together?
Well, you're conflating a lot of issues. The question is, how many jobs would you have had? Remember, you have a growing economy. Also, it's one thing to raise the minimum wage from $7 to, say, $8.25 in line with inflation since it was last adjusted. Businesses sort of expect that, and that won't change the real cost of hiring those workers. There'll still be some automation, but it won't be a lot. If you raise it to $15 an hour, you're going to lose 1 million jobs, perhaps. But the workers that are left behind will have higher incomes. So you have the old story of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Longer term, $15 an hour is awfully high. If you raise it to something like $8.50, you'd be okay.
All right, let's go ahead and get it from another side here. Marco Rubio sort of touched on this when he said that in order to make America the best, make higher education more available. And here he was talking about vocational training, and I think he had one of the best lines of the night. Let's hear it.
For the life of me, I don't know why we have stigmatized vocational education. Welders make more money than philosophers. We need more welders and less philosophers.
Now, D.C., they went back and looked a little bit, and they said, well, maybe philosophers don't always make less money than welders. I came back and said, well, if you got a good union, the welders will kill at that point. But with regard to what he said, the line he said, talking about the minimum wage, talking about money, is it not fair to say that Marco Rubio scored an awful lot of points last night?
He did, because we definitely do need more vocational training in our country. And there's so many jobs out there that are available for people, and they need to have access to them, but they need the training. And, you know, there are classes right now being offered in community colleges and technical colleges, and they can't get enough students to come fill the seats because they've been sold the bill of goods that higher education, liberal arts, getting that philosophy degree or some other liberal arts degree is going to get them the job that they need. But we know that so many students coming out of college right now just aren't getting the jobs that they want. And so, you know, they need those vocational training jobs and opportunities.
D.C., let me ask you specifically when it comes down to a lot of what we saw. We didn't hear a lot of women's issues talked about last night, but let me ask you, how do you think Carly Fiorina did? To me and a lot of others, she seemed to hold her ground very well and got a couple of good digs in at Trump.
Well, she always holds her ground really well in debates. She's a great debater. You know, she always goes after Trump, and they're like they spar at each other all the time. And she makes a big deal about that he's attacking her because she's a woman. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's a personality clash. They're both from the same background. They both kind of have the same kind of edge to them. And I think it's a personality conflict. Plus, she took a dig at him first, and then he attacked back. So she can't, you know, say that she was perfectly innocent in that. But, you know, she held her own as far as the debate goes. My problem with her is that she says, I want a 3-page tax code, but she gives us no details about what's going to be on those pages.
All right, wait a minute. Let me stop you right there, because that's a good point. Peter, we weren't going to talk about this, but I just saw you chuckle as well, because Carly Fiorina makes that tax code part of her always right out there in front. Can you have a 3-page tax code, Peter?
Oh, I don't think so, but you could have one that is substantially shorter, or you could have 3 pages that summarize it and then some explanation. If we went to a brief value-added tax, it might be possible to have a very short tax code, but 3 pages, no. You know, Carly's a graduate of my college and the program that I teach in. You don't see us all raising our hands to support her.
And the reason for that would be?
She's a saleswoman. She's not a president. She really was a failed CEO at Hewlett-Packard, and at the AT&T spinoff, She basically sold the IPO. She sold the new shareholders a bill of goods. She hasn't been a terribly effective manager. Trump does have her sized up right, even if you don't like his rhetoric or manner of expression. She is a very good salesperson. That begins it and ends it.
All right, I got about 60 seconds left, and I want to give 30 seconds to each. Peter, how did the candidates do, and in your opinion, who won the battle regarding the economy and what they said last night?
My feeling is that Marco Rubio was the clear winner, and many of the other candidates either seemed unpresidential. For example, Kasich was very knowledgeable but twitchy, and say Cruz and Trump with their stand on immigration made them unelectable. Mr. Bush, with his statement about a no-fly zone and the others, you can't have a no-fly zone now that the Russians are there. You know, he was the only one that really said sensible things and did it in a way that looked convincing.
Okay.
All of the others either had a problem, didn't say very much, or said things that simply are not possible.
30 seconds to you then. Let's go ahead, D.C. Your column today, Rand Paul finally shines on stage. Did he do enough to save himself?
I think he did enough to save himself for a period of time. I also think he did really well. I like Marco Rubio, but I would say the senators were tied.
All right, here we go. We're all talking about saving at this point to see who can actually stick around. We will continue to follow this as well. We're all out of time, unfortunately. D.C. McAllister, Peter Morici. Don't forget, D.C. at the Federalist, Peter Morici. Read his columns right here at Newsmax.com. Now let's ask a question. Who won the GOP debate? Keep telling us, because we're keeping a tally here. Go to NewsmaxPolls.com. Tell us who you thought actually came out on top, and we'll let you know the results. Stay with us. The Hardline continues right here.